What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Cartoon Season. I am Tyler, and this is where I talk about animation in the best way. Sometimes cartoons, anime, movies, all that stuff. Today we got modern day classic, I feel like. Especially when it comes to Netflix in particular. We got Bojack Horseman, but specifically seasons 1 and 2. Obviously, I'll talk about the other ones at some point. But season 1 and 2, as of right now, it's all I've watched. And at the top, I think it's a great cartoon. I think that it's just really good. I think that it stands out in the landscape. I think in some ways it has influenced a lot of cartoons that have come after it. In many different ways, but nothing quite like BoJack Horseman. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're going to talk about some Bojack's relationship with Todd. I think that's very interesting throughout the first 2 seasons. We're going to talk about Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter's relationship. I think that is also, some ups and downs there. And then just generally Bojack being self-destructive, which is prevalent in pretty much every episode of this show. But I'm going to talk about some key points that really stand out to me. So a few different things here to discuss today. Before we get into it, make sure to go to the Tiger T YouTube channel or other podcast services and listen to more episodes of this. And also recommend what other stuff other than Bojack that you want to see me cover on here. But we're going to start off, like I said, with Bojack's relationship with Todd. So Todd obviously lives with Bojack, kind of mooching off of him a little bit, I guess. That's just where it starts, living together. Doesn't really seem like Bojack 100% wants him there, but it's not low enough for Bojack to kick him out. We're not sure if it's like pity or if they really are friends, or I don't know. It's not super clear, but they, Todd loves Bojack, and Bojack, I guess, puts up with Todd. So we get to a point where Todd wants to make his rock opera. It's something that he's, I guess, been wanting to do for a while. It's based off like a game, I guess. Oh no, it's not based off a game. Sorry, I'm getting 2 things confused. But yeah, it's something that he wants to do, and he's like super into it, and he seems to be really good at it. So that's great. You know what I mean? Bojack is there to support him, at least initially. And I say initially because at some point, Bojack sabotages this rock opera by bribing the Beast Buy clerk to convince Todd to buy a game. And that's where I'm going to leave it right now. So the reason why he does that is because he knows that this is a game that Todd was obsessed over as earlier in his life. It's something that basically destroyed his life because it's all he did. I think it's supposed to like compare it to something like World of Warcraft or something where it's just one of those games that when you start playing, if you get hooked on it, you play it all day, every day, and it's all you can think about, right? So the reason he does this is because it turns out Bojack does not want Todd's rock opera to do well. In the beginning, it's just nonsense, right? And Bojack's like, whatever, dude. But at some point, he realizes this rock opera is like spectacular. Like it's something that if Todd actually meets with some people that can take this to the next level, Todd is going to be out of his life, because Todd's going to be super successful, and rich and famous and all that stuff. So Bojack doesn't want that because deep down, Bojack does not want Todd to move out. And that's where we really learn that Bojack really does care about Todd and appreciates the friendship that he has with him, even though he doesn't super like share it in the best way. So I mean, that right there I think is just a testament to their relationship, where it's like that episode just shows that Todd loves Bojack. Todd's just a dude who does stuff. And the Bojack on the outside is kind of indifferent towards him, but deep down he cherishes him probably more than anyone else. In his life. But it does show this weird, like, manipulative side that Bojack has, that maybe Todd doesn't realize, maybe no one else realizes, maybe even at this point. But it is like a weird power dynamic too, which is not cool. But we'll get into a little bit more into that when we talk about how Bojack is self-destructive. So other than that, another moment is due to a voicemail that Herb got from, due to the voicemail from Herb who got cancer, Bojack ignores a call from Todd, who's now in prison. Now, important, right? Someone you know getting cancer, right? But even that does still show that, like, Bojack sometimes is oblivious to one of his best friends, if not his best friend. You know, but Todd's in prison. You know, and he gets the one phone call, tries to call Bojack, doesn't work out. So now we have a whole escapade, that goes on because of that. So again, showing something where it's like, it's not always a two-way street, this relationship, you know. Another moment, he decides to do a bunch of drugs with Todd and Sarah Lynn to finish writing his memoir. Not the best role model for Todd. Again, that's kind of a 1-2 punch there. One, just doing a bunch of drugs. Okay, not really great. And then two, to finish his own memoir, which we have the whole backstory there where he hates Diane at one point, so he decides to write his own memoir, his own book about himself, so more selfishness, more self-centeredness. Again, not always trying to do things for the people around him. It's always about him. He also relies on Todd to help him steal Nixon's scale model from the museum. Again, dragging Todd into a crime. He doesn't attend Todd's improv graduation. That one hurt. That one was the second one that hurt after the sabotaging of the rock opera. So, man, another thing that Todd is really into, and yeah, is it a cult? Maybe. But it's something he's really into, something he's apparently really, really good at, and he just wants his friend there to support him in his graduation, and Bojack doesn't go. It's just again, it seems like Todd is always there for Bojack, and Bojack is there for Todd about 22% of the time. And in the end, they do remember the day Todd first came over, and they decide to stay together. So it all's well that ends well, I guess, is the phrase that's somewhat applicable here. We'll get a little more into it when we get into the self-destructive Bojack segment, but most of what I just regaled to you, and there's more examples, but those are the ones that I just feel like made sense to stand out, where it's like, very much a one-way street, very much, it's always about Bojack, it's never about Todd. Todd gets into stuff too, but Bojack never seems to be there to help him out. It's always the other way. In the end, they do make up and they kind of understand each other a little more, and they decide to still stay living together. But going into season 3, I am not really sure how much more like strain this friendship can happen, can have happen to it. But we'll see. We'll see. I think for the most part, it's a very nice friendship on paper. Not even on paper. Not even. Again, it's something that the stuff just kind of gets brushed aside. But I don't know if that's gonna last another, I don't know how many seasons the show has, another 5 seasons or whatever. I don't know. But we will see, because next we're going to talk about Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter here. So they're dating, right? That's something that I think we learned in like the first episode, which is tough because like Bojack hates Mr. Peanut Butter for some weird reason. And also Diane is writing his book, so it's like, it's just a weird circumstance, But we do have some weird moments between these two where it's like they're dating, but again, strain on a relationship is just the theme of the first 2 seasons, it feels like. So we got Mr. PB who competes with Bojack for Diane, because like Bojack like has a weird like crush on her, I guess, which never really develops into anything, obviously, but it's also again a testament to Bojack's character. where it's like, it's just someone who's giving you attention. That's all it is, to, that it takes for you to fall for someone. It doesn't, again, very indicative of his character and like who he is. So Bojack steals the D from the Hollywood sign. Extreme. That is an extreme way to like get someone to notice you and try to have them pick you over someone else. Wild. So Mr. PB instead takes the D for himself and pretends it was a romantic gesture for Diane. Because, the first letter of Diane, you know what I mean? They're already dating, so he tries to rub it off that way. Crazy. Again, the whole situation, wild. Because Bojack just did it to be like, hey, like I guess to show how much power he has and like how spontaneous he is or whatever. PB was definitely able to be like, okay, this is what it is. We're just gonna settle this. And then even more into their relationship, while Bojack is leaving a heartfelt voicemail for Diane, PB proposes to her. So again, a lot of Bojack in the middle of this relationship, but PB is able to kind of cement it by proposing to her, and it's just a nice little dichotomy of like two parallel events, of like them, him trying to lock her down, in a good way, while Bojack is still kind of like, falling for her, still trying to get her, I guess. So a very tough moment, for Bojack to realize that. But then also, the weird circumstances of their relationship too, where it's like, for PB to even have to go through the lengths of the whole Hollywood sign thing and to kind of like, spin that back in his favor, for him to have to propose to her in that moment to get it so she stays with him, like not super solid, like their foundation not super solid. And we move on a little bit later to Diane and Mr. PB having a huge argument over if Tony Curtis is dead. Again, it seems like a very simple thing, but like huge argument afterwards, about how like, Diane or PB always has to have stuff his way, he's not thoughtful. But then like in the moment of like showing all the reasons why he's not thoughtful, there is like a good reason for every single decision he makes about that surprise birthday party. You know what I mean? And even before then, the whole night that they've had, super thoughtful, everything that Diane wanted, so it's a weird thing where it's like on one hand, it seems like they're not going to last another day. On the other hand, it seems like they know everything about each other and they're going to be together forever. So again, it's a weird like nexus space that the relationship sits in like constantly. And then Diane's attack on Hank Hippopopoulos causes potential trouble for Mr. PB's new game show. Again, now it's on the opposite side where now Diane is being selfish and he just, again, I forget how Mr. Peanut Butter puts it, but he's just like, why does it have to be you though? Like, I agree with you that if everything you're saying about this Hank is true, then yes, he should be taken down. He should be taken down a few pegs, but why does it have to be you who does it? You are the only one that I care about, and you doing this is putting my game show in jeopardy. Like the game show, I mean, at that point, Mr. PB, that's the one thing he wants in this world, is to host this game show. And because of the situation, the drama that Diane is in the middle of, the death threats that he's getting, and for her, and it's like my game show. Again, which it's one thing if like she was a victim of his terribleness. That's one thing, but she's not. She's just someone who's trying to unearth it and put it out in the world, and she feels like she has to be the superhero in this moment. And Mr. PB is just like, but like, can you think about me for a second? And I don't think he's doing it selfishly. I think it's just like, you do not have to do this, and your actions in doing this is hurting me. Again, it's one thing if she was a victim, then obviously I think Mr. PB should drop everything he's doing and be by her side and helping her with all this. But she's not. She's just a person who sympathizes with these people because they're women, and she feels like she needs to bring the hammer of justice, but it's like it's not her job. So again, flips a little bit to where now she's being super selfish, or at least that's the narrative that's being driven here. And so they need some space, so Diane goes to Sebastian St. Clair, and they finally go to the other country. I forget where it was, and they spend some time apart for a little bit, which is fine. Sometimes that happens where you just need some space away. It's fine. Doesn't necessarily mean doomsday. But when Diane returns to the United States, she hides from Mr. Peanut Butter. She just can't bring herself to, get back with him. She doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know how to apologize or even reconcile, or even if he is what she wants at this point. She just doesn't know. And she doesn't want to go back to him, and especially if it ends another argument, or if it ends with a definitive answer, she's afraid of that as well. So it's tough. Again, that's tough situation she's in. But even so, again, being a little selfish there, tricking Mr. Peanut Butter the whole time. And while as two adults, you should just sit down and have a conversation. But at the very end, kind of like the last segment with Bojack and Todd, this kind of just ends well, where PB catches Diane at a restaurant, but neither of them make a scene about it. He doesn't oh my God, he doesn't yell and scream oh my God, you're here. Like you said, you've been in Afghanistan or whatever. I forget what country she was in. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the Middle East. He's just like, oh, okay. And he just keeps having a conversation with her on the phone, like they were just having, but they start kind of speaking in code, because they know what they want to say to each other, but they don't actually want to come out and say it. And they indirectly agree to see each other again. They kind of agree to be like, okay, yes, we understand there's been some tough spots, but let's just get together and work this out, like adults. So again, all's well that ends well, I guess. Again, this is another thing. This is another thing the show does really well. Kind of grouping this with the last segment where it's these people are real people. They have flaws, and just because they're main characters doesn't mean they are the best for each other. With this actually being a romantic relationship, and then Bojack and Todd being a friend relationship, so I think this show does a really good job of showing each character with themselves and what they want and their passions, but also their flaws and what makes them not perfect characters. And so again, this is another one where I'm very interested to see what happens in the following seasons of if they stay together, what other turmoil do they have to endure. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Last segment is the Bojack self-destructive segment. So this is very clear in pretty much every episode of the show, but I do have a few examples that I want to point out. So first, he indirectly calls American soldiers jerks. Not good, Yes, I'm sure some of them are jerks, because, humans are humans, right? But, blanket statements like that, especially about soldiers, the military, we're supposed to have this perception of people who, join the military of, they're doing it for the good cause, they're selfless, they are protecting our country, serving our country, you know what I mean? So, whether all of that is 100%, 100% true all the time, you're still not supposed to go against it in such an aggressive way. So that right there is he could have just bit his tongue. He could have just not said something like that. And it wouldn't have caused this whole, kerfuffle, right? We are revisiting the truth that is Bojack sabotaging, Todd's rock opera. Come on, what are we doing? That's supposed to be your best friend. You're supposed to be supportive of him. You're supposed to want him to get better and grow as a person. Awful, awful. He steals the D from the Hollywood sign to impress Diane. Again, Mr. Peanut Butter, maybe not your best friend, but someone who's done nothing wrong to you. Diane, someone who was writing your book, like, you're just getting, like, they're dating, they're together, and you're getting in the middle of their relationship. Like, that's not right, Him leaving the voicemail expressing his feelings for Diane, and then says he was drunk, so she should just delete it. Like, that's, whether he meant it to be or not, that is manipulative, And then it's also sabotaging a person and people that are close to you. Like, come on, man, He has a week-long bender because PB proposed to Diane. I mean, he brought this upon himself. Him, obviously his upbringing and stuff, it has caused him to act, how he does, but you can't completely blame it on that, especially when you are still an adult human who can make your own decisions. And so now him being, somewhat depressed, I guess, because that happened. I mean, I feel like a large part of that is brought upon himself. And then on the drive back from Malibu, he kisses Diane. Like, come on, again, getting in the middle of someone else's relationship is not cool. It's just not cool, especially when you know both people. Like, like, I mean, I'm maybe not especially, but both these people. Like, you are gonna have to, like, what would happen if you went through with it? Like you would have to address both of these people directly. He's upset with what Diane wrote about him, so he fires her, then insults her work, and insults the work that she's done. Again, you knew this. You wanted a book written about you because you are narcissistic in that way. You were totally cool with that happening, and the book that was written is your life. Like, I'm trying to remember back to season 1, but like I don't believe that she wrote anything intentionally. Like, she didn't write like a hit piece on him. She wrote his life. She interpreted his life the way that she was giving it to him, or the way that he gave it to her. So it's like, and I'm just getting so mad. Like, he wanted her to lie. Like, we saw that, especially in the beginning when, the whole deal, the whole, like, situation first started with him, being like, oh, here's Diane being like, hey, okay, so tell me about your life, tell me about your family, everything like that. Like, you could tell that he was lying and, like, fluffing things up intentionally. He gets weird when he says, I love you to Wanda, then goes to extremes to make her say it back. Like, that, again, very manipulative. Bojack is, whether you realize it or not, like, because he gets weird with the whole I love you thing, because he says it and he means it, but he needs that, what's the word? He needs that reciprocation in his life. And so when Wanda doesn't give it to him immediately, he goes to extremes. He does some crazy things to just get her to say the 3 words, I love you. It's like, it's not necessary. You know what I mean? He gets mad when he starts losing PB's game show, and his outbursts cause some things to get revealed. Again, he brings stuff on himself. He didn't, again, maybe Mr. Peanut Butter being a little too abrasive there, but he could have just spoken to him. Again, they're friends. They're supposed to be friends. He could have spoken to him, and he could have also just went along with the game show. It's just a game show. Like, that's just what it is. It's not real life. He wasn't interviewing you and, like, asking you weird questions. It's just a game show. Like, you can lose it. It's okay to lose at something. And then it causes him to say, he says some things that he regrets, and then Mr. PB says his own things and fires back some things that Bojack did not want to be said out loud, did not want thrown back into his face. Even with the moment that Mr. PB knew about, where it was like, you kissed my wife. Like, yeah, I knew about that. And you see, Bojack's reaction. It's just like, yeah, you, at times, not a good friend. Not even close to being a good friend. But you know what? I brush stuff off. I do these things for you because I do, when you are a good friend, you are a good friend, so, and it just shows it's even more indicative of PB's character, even more so than Bojack's in that moment. Bojack gets Kelsey fired, and the new director turns his movie to garbage again because he wanted to take things into his own hands. He got Kelsey involved, and then boom, now that's over. Now you have a new director who is terrible, and then when you try to point out that he's terrible, he doubles down on the terribleness. So again, if he just did it the way he was supposed to do it, he would have a movie that was like 95% what he wanted. Instead, now, a movie he wants about 10%. So again, he just if he would just not make everything about him, which is very impressive that he made a movie where he is the star in, even more about himself and about his wants and him being in the spotlight. And and the last thing I got is that he runs away to Tescu. I don't know how you say that. I think it's in New Mexico. To an old girlfriend, Charlotte. And again, it's just like there's so many weird moments there where like an old girlfriend where like they were only kind of together, and then he does some weird stuff like trying to get the old memories back and trying to like get not feel the sting of who he was back in California, and him trying to like rekindle that, but that doesn't really work because she has a family, and then him doing some weird stuff with the daughter. Like that's just like, what are you doing, dude? Like you just need to face your own problems and you need to resolve them. You just running away from them and then causing more problems everywhere you go, 10 times worse, 100 times worse. It's like, come on, like so yeah, those are kind of all the moments I had. A lot of them, some of them are very small, some of them are huge, but like so self-destructive, so manipulative, so like you bring everything upon yourself, and it's just like you just gotta face things head on. And I think that's what he's most scared of, is actually dealing with things rather than just brushing them off or pretending it didn't happen, running away from them, like, and then him like fantasizing other moments in his head that didn't actually happen the way they happened. So I don't know, I'm interested to see. I don't really have like a segment for season 3 predictions or anything. Usually when there's seasonal stuff, I'll do a prediction segment. I don't really have one because the show isn't really like that in my opinion. I am interested to see. I already talked about it. I'm interested to see where the relationship between Bojack and Todd develops to, where Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter develop to. And there's really with this segment, like, what other crazy stuff is he going to get into? Is he going to put himself into, are people finally going to get sick of him, but we will see. There is at least a few more seasons of the show. I don't remember how many. I think there's maybe 7 or 8 seasons, I think. So I'm excited to watch the rest of it. Let me know what you thought of the first 2 seasons of the show, what you thought of Bojack himself, any other moments from the show that you like that I didn't mention, what you think season 3 is going to hold. Because I very much enjoyed the show. Make sure to go, like I said, to Tiger T YouTube or other podcast services. There's also Twitter, if that's your jam. Everything will be down below for your clicking needs. Until next time, watch the 3rd season of Bojack Horseman. I don't know if I'm gonna just do the 3rd season or if I'm gonna bunch them up. I don't really know at this point, but next is season 3 no matter what. So make sure to watch that, and also let me know what other shows or movies or whatever you want to see me talk about on here.